Hello, I'm Reverend Dr. Horace F. Whitaker Jr., and thank you for joining us here at the Thoughts for Living podcast. Today, we hope that you will enjoy the content that we've worked hard to provide for you. Here's this week's episode. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Thoughts for Living podcast. We hope all is well with you and yours. And as always, for more information about this episode and previous podcasts, please go to thoughtsforliving.com. Also there, you will find information regarding our new children's book, We Are Humankind. And right now, basically, the book is free. All you have to do is pay shipping. And we know that this particular book will bring much joy to you and your family as you discuss and experience more about our sojourn here in the United States, as well as our commitment to our mother country, Africa. Today, we'd like to discuss collaboration versus competition. These two values come out of our Afrocentric perspectives and our Eurocentric perspectives, both components of ecological consciousness theory. Our African ancestors bequeathed to humanity the importance of valuing the group. First, we were created social beings. Socialism, that is, living in proper relationship to each other, is fundamental to our existence. We only become humane by living and learning from others' humaneness. We only become humane by living and learning from others' humaneness. Secondly, the group provided some sense of security from predators. There is much truth to the adage, there is safety in numbers. And lastly, only within group social relationships do we experience shared responsibility and resources. And here is where collaboration comes in. Humane beings share responsibility for identifying and making useful the resources needed for our survival. Our ancestors worked together. Some may have gone out to find food, others might have looked for water, while others performed other duties and protected their home base or camp. These responsibilities were shared by women and men who learned they were dependent not only upon each other, but also upon the fresh air, water, plant, and animal life that they needed. Life taught them that they were part of an interrelated, symbiotic network we now know as the circle of life. Life also taught them, in addition to collaborating to meet their physical needs, our African forebears also took care of the elderly, as well as those who were sick or injured. Everyone in the group was loved and cared for. There was no hierarchy, no big I's and little U's, not even so much as a chief. They lived equitably and with each other and with the resources the earth provided. Now, let's contrast this Afrocentric consciousness and worldview with the Eurocentric idea of competition. First, in 1684, during the Enlightenment, Francis Burnett published an essay in the very first academic journal in Europe entitled New Division of the Earth by the different species or races of man that inhabited it. And this essay is the first that divided humanity into what they called races. The fallacy of race continued to be advocated by European scientists and thinkers into the 19th century when Samuel George Morton said the difference in intelligence of blacks and whites could be demonstrated by the size of the skull. So, since whites had big heads, they obviously were smarter than the small-headed black people. During this period, Charles Darwin is credited with the idea of natural selection, which was published in the book On the Origin of Species in 1859. According to the American Museum of Natural History, natural selection is a process where individual organisms who happen to be the best suited to an environment survive and reproduce most successfully by producing many similarly well-adapted descendants, unquote. Over time, these descendants outnumber those that didn't adapt as well, so nature filters them out, and we're left with a population that has evolved. Herbert Spencer helped to associate Darwin's biological idea of natural selection with the economic idea of survival of the fittest. Spencer used the idea of survival of the fittest to support white European colonization and the murder of indigenous peoples and the theft of their land, and as exterminating the inferior people from the earth. These ideas became known as social Darwinism, pseudoscience that supported capitalism without government restrictions. Like Spencer, social Darwinism was against helping workers, the poor, and blacks, because in its warped worldview, we were inferior and worthy of extinction. These ideas led to eugenics, which believed some humans were better than others and that only better humans should be allowed to have children. Eurocentric competition comes out of economic ideas of survival of the fittest, which helps justify white supremacist ideas of imperialism and colonization of people and the earth's resources. Rather than helping the sick, the injured, or less fortunate, as ecological consciousness would, this worldview says you're on your own. You are not worthy of help because you are inferior and not human. Now, here we've discussed collaboration, which is an Afrocentric value, versus competition, which is its counter Eurocentric value. One question could be posed, friends. Which value system do you think would be sustainable for all of us going forward? Would a value system that seeks collaboration, working together, that also values the we of life, would that value system be sustainable for us going forward as citizens of the world? Or would competition be a value system that's sustainable going forward? where some people are valued and other people are not seen as valuable. Competition where we fight for the resources of the earth. Competition where we fight for food and clothing and shelter. Well, if you ask me, the only value system that seems sustainable for humankind and for the biosphere going forward is a worldview that embraces collaboration. Not only collaboration, but the four basic values aligned with ecological consciousness theory, which are valuing the group, valuing collaboration, valuing spirituality, and valuing personhood. These values come from our African ancestors, as opposed to the values that come from the 17th century Enlightenment. And those values are valuing individualism, competition, secularism, which is idolatry, and personal achievement at all costs. I think it's easy for us to see, in my opinion, which value system is really sustainable, which value system we would like to teach our children, which value system we would like to be promoted throughout society. I think a value system that values humanity, our working together, that values our understanding as spiritual beings, as created beings, and as creators, and then recognizing that being good people, having quality relationships with each other and the earth is important. That seems like a great way to go. Obviously, individualism, competition, secularism, and personal achievement are at all costs now has become unsustainable. It's unsustainable that corporate entities can chop off the top of mountains and the water that runs down the mountain, and the people who live miles away from that have to deal with water that's undrinkable. But individualism says it's my right to make money. And if it poisons your water, well, tough. Look at the people in Flint, Michigan. Still without drinking water. Or corporate entities that spew toxins into the air. Let's say your child has asthma. Well, that's tough. You just have to move. Because it's my individual right to make money. Individualism, not thinking about how our choices and behavior affect others, that's not sustainable going forward. We would hope, if you need to find more information about this particular topic, please go to thoughtsforliving.com. And there you will find links to this podcast and to previous podcasts. Also, on thoughtsforliving.com, we also have some fantastic music that I'm sure will bless you and will encourage you in your days ahead. And please don't forget to take a look at our new children's book, We Are Humankind. A book I'm sure that will aid your child's development in terms of reading, will create lasting memories as you both share reading time together, and also will develop the skills our children need to be successful not only in school, but also in life. We'd like to thank you for taking your time, and until next time, have a great week.
That was interesting. As you can see, we really provide a different way of viewing the world. And we feel that's very important in order that we might come up with different ways of making our world more sustainable for you and for me. We thank you for helping us in that regard and would love to hear your thoughts. So please feel free to reach out to us at thoughtsforliving.com. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your week.